It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and, of course, taking your phone calls. You participate in this show. I'd like to hear from you. The phone number to join us, 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, and you can email us about anything and everything, randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. Coming up later in the show, we'll be giving away tickets to Jeff Lynn's ELO, so stay tuned for that. Now, the California legislature is currently in overdrive mode, introducing bill after bill after bill after bill after bill. You're starting to hear about the things that are going to go on the November ballot. I know we just finished the March election, but the November election is already around the corner. There's going to be bond measures you have to vote on. There's going to be propositions you have to vote on. If anything is telling me that this is going to be like every other election, we're going to have to vote on some kidney bill for some reason. But there's one potential bill that is going to be on the ballot in November, most likely, that's kind of an interesting proposition. It actually comes from the California Superintendent, Tony Thurmond, who wants to run for governor in 2026. And he wants to put forth a proposition that, if passed by the voters, would require a specific class to be taken and passed before any student in the state of California can graduate high school. And that specific class is personal finance. For more about this, let's go to KTLA.
California Superintendent Tony Thurmond is backing a proposal now to make financial education a graduation requirement in state public schools.
How is this already not a thing? I think I remember, and my education history is a little hazy. I remember in the 4th grade learning how to write a check for some reason. I think I may have learned a little bit about what an interest rate is, but not at all what you should learn. I think I learned how to do my taxes in my work experience class. And of course, I spent my entire senior year being taught how to fill out college loan applications without any of the implications of that debt would be following me for the rest of my life.
Capitol correspondent Eitan Wallace spoke one-on-one with Thurmond and has more on his message.
I think it's Thurmond, but whatever. We can call him Thurmond. Thurmond, potato, it don't matter. Let's go, Eitan Wallace.
Well, here at the California Department of Education, Thurmond told me he believes a required personal finance course could be a game changer for students, and soon you, the voters, could have the final say.
This is something that will have tremendous benefits for our students.
That's the message.
If it's so important, why do we need the voters to pass this? You're the superintendent. You can't just change the curriculum? It seems like a simple fix, but hopefully the voters go for it. I think it's a good idea. Maybe.
This is something that will have tremendous benefits for our students.
That's the message State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tony Thurmond hopes to convey about a proposal to make a course in personal finance a graduation requirement in California public schools. At the California Department of Education, Thurmond spoke to this group of educators and financial literacy professionals about why he believes making such a course mandatory would have a long-term impact.
When students have access to learn about personal finance, they are less likely to have debt. They're able to make great decisions about their future and their finances, and they get education that often isn't provided in the home.
I think that is important. I think you still have a situation, though, where young people, especially people under 25, they get a credit card and they go a little crazy. I got some stories.
When students have access to learn about personal finance, they are less likely to have debt. They're able to make great decisions about their future and their finances, and they get education that often isn't provided in the home.
Learning about things like compound interest rates, very important. Learning about what investing is, I still don't really understand it. I don't understand how it's totally an okay thing to short a market. Like, it's just gambling. It's just a bet, but that's totally allowed, totally above board, even if you bankrupt a company. Whatever. It's very confusing to me. Probably because I went to California public schools and I didn't get to take a personal finance class.
In the past, members of the legislature have tried to introduce bills to mandate a personal finance high school course, but those proposals failed. But now supporters behind a new effort are hoping to bring the idea directly to voters. Last month with this...
Who said no to this before? Who in the teachers union said this was a bad idea?
And I want you to be all the way pissed off.
I don't know if it was you. Hey, what day of the week is it, Cecily?
Tuesday,
What day is tomorrow?
Wednesday,
What day is the day after tomorrow?
Thursday.
See, at the home studio, I have so many more drops than just the typical Cecily Myart Cruz ones.
Shame.
Hey, Cecily, what's the month after this month?
May.
You knew that was coming. What was the month we just had?
March.
I don't have her saying April just yet, but don't you worry. It's coming soon. At some point, she's going to need more money, and that means she's going to be doing videos again. But right now, she's kind of in hiding. All right, let's go back to Tony Thurmond. I could get distracted with Cecily Myart Cruz all day long.
But now supporters behind a new effort are hoping to bring the idea directly to voters. Last month, with the support of Thurmond, they turned in nearly 900,000 signatures to qualify the measure for the November ballot. They need just under 600,000 of those signatures to be considered valid to officially qualify for the November election.
I got to imagine the registrars that count those, the Secretary of State's office, they don't look at them as closely as they do one of these recall elections, like the recall of Pamela Price up in Oakland, that they are still counting. They did a random sample and it wasn't clear enough if it passed. So now they've got to go through every single hand counted ballot and it takes 30 days. So we still don't know if there's going to be a recall of Bippy.
I've been bipped several times.
I'm going to start calling her Bippy. That's just what I'm going to do.
We hope that people will support it, and we think this is a great thing for California kids.
It's a message with which Valerie Chapman agrees. An educator from Oakland, she's the founder and CEO of Financial Literacy for Kids, a
Can you go talk to the mayor of Oakland? She could use some lessons in financial literacy. That city is broke.
nonprofit organization dedicated to teaching 4th and 5th graders about saving and investing.
Well, this is extremely important because studies have proven that students learn or develop their financial habits at an early age, habits that will, last.
Well, the financial habits I had as a child was stealing change from my parents' change drawer and going to get some Del Taco with it. That has not followed me my entire life. So I'd like to think that I did change my habits outside of being a child.
Habits that will, last them a lifetime.
Still, some are skeptical. In an op-ed for the nonprofit publication Cal Matters last fall, columnist Dan Walters wrote, adding new mandates takes class time away from basics that too many students are not already mastering. Financial or media literacy classes are pointless for kids who cannot do math or read at their grade level. But Thurmond sees it differently.
Well, Dan Walters, who is on the John Phillips show regularly, is setting the bar really low. He's saying the kids already can't do math. They're not going to be able to understand interest rates. I think we should set the bar a little higher, and you should not be able to graduate without knowing math. And yeah, I think understanding personal finance, understanding what a credit score is, what impacts a credit score, and how making some idiotic mistakes in your 20s can follow you around for a decade is very important to drill into the kids' heads. Because at some point, they're going to be at college, and there's going to be a little kiosk for Bank of America or Chase, and they're going to say, hey, you're a student. Would you like a gold card? Would you like a credit card? Make you feel all comfortable knowing that you can take care of things? That's what happened to me. I think this was when I was still thinking about going to community college. I was occasionally dropping into College of the Crayons, as we called it in Santa Clarita, College of the Canyons, of course. And there was a kiosk for Bank of America offering me, an 18-year-old, a $5,000 credit line. And you know what? I'd say for the first year or two, I was very responsible with that. I didn't really use it for anything outside of drive-through, a lot of drive-through. This was around the same time that they started taking credit cards at the drive-through. Game changer, because now I can get my burgers and I don't even need to have cash. But oh boy, I started realizing that, hey, the more I use this card, the more they like to increase my limit. And the 5,000 turned to 10,000, turned to 15,000. By the time I was 22 years old, I had a $25,000 credit card from Bank of America. And this was around the same time that the recession hit and I lost my job at KLSX. I started a podcast. I started doing a lot of drugs. I started making some very irresponsible decisions, including, and I'm not kidding, taking out a $1,000 cash advance to go to Vegas. Oh, I use that thing at casinos. I use that thing at strip clubs. I use that thing, not technically at pot stores, but there were certain ways that you could use it at a pot store at the time. I think it's a little more simple now, but back then you had to have the medical card and you had to have certain workarounds for which places would actually let you use the credit card for weed. But what do you know? My strategy at the time was, well, if I get close to the limit, I'll just ask for another increase. And as long as I keep paying the minimum, eventually I'm going to be making so much money, I'll pay this thing off. Oh, that was always my strategy. Future Randy's going to deal with this. Hey, it's 2009. In 2010, I'm going to be loaded. This pretty good podcast is going to take off. I'm going to be able to pay this thing. Yes, I'm going to spend more money that I don't have on weed. I was spending like $100 a week. So at some point, yeah, I got to where they would not increase my limit anymore because I was only paying the minimum payment, and they realized this guy's probably not good for the money that we've given him, which, as you know, I was at a $25,000 limit, and I was at $24,000 on the card. I didn't know what to do. The minimum payment all of a sudden was like up to $300. So what did I do? I took out a second credit card. The only amount they would give me was $5,000. This was some bank I never even heard of. And I did a quick balance transfer. So that card was immediately maxed out, but now I had $5,000 more to play with on my B of A. And then, what do you know? I did not take off in 2010. I was making even less money. There was actually a period of the first couple of months of 2010 before I started at KFI that I was unemployed and had to juggle not paying my rent, not paying my student mortgage, not paying my car, not paying everything. And then I fell into a little bit of a tumble. Wasn't able to use credit cards for quite some time after that. But hey, I didn't know any better, and I wish that I did. If you could only see what my credit score was in 2012. I didn't know it could go below a certain number. I think it was in the 300s. Now, this story does have a happy ending. As you can see, I'm a responsible, almost 40-year-old here. I'm 38. And I slowly but surely, after I learned about my mistakes, understood consequences, figured out how to repair my credit. How did I do it? Well, found the worst possible credit card that would give me anything and showed them that I could be trustworthy. I believe the first credit card I could get after going through all this madness was a $200 limit. That's all it was. And I had it for emergencies. And I would make sure that I don't hold any interest on that $200 and I pay it off. And what do you know? It went up a little bit. They said, okay, you know what? We're gonna give you $500 now. And then a few months later, that went up to $1,000. Then the mail started giving me offers again. Hey, we got a credit card for you. We got a credit card for you. We got a credit card for you. And slowly but surely, I saw my numbers go from the 5s to the 6s to the 7s. And once you get to the high 6s and the low 7s, then you start getting the credit cards that are actually pretty fantastic. I can always remember when I first got my first Southwest card, and I realized, hey, now that I'm making money, I'm more responsible, so I'm not going to overextend myself. If I put everything on the credit card, I can cash in on Southwest miles. And I've been doing that for quite some time until I've upgraded recently. And now I'm trying to get into the whole travel hacking thing because, you know, Southwest miles are great, but you can only use them on Southwest, which means I can only go to Santa Fe and Dallas. So if I want to travel to other places, now I've got the Chase Sapphire. Now I've got the Amex card. Now I'm making sure that I use the card at the grocery store that gives me 4x points, and I use the card at the restaurant that gives me 3x points, and it's 5x points on the hotel. I'm trying to add up as many points as I can. But I always make sure that I pay off every single card in full every month. Do not overextend myself unless I absolutely have to. Because otherwise, I'm paying a whole bunch of money for these points that so far have not been worth a whole lot. but at some point, it's going to be great.
In an op-ed for the nonprofit publication Cal Matters last fall, columnist Dan Walters wrote, adding new mandates takes class time away from basics that too many students are not already mastering. Financial or media literacy classes are pointless for kids who cannot do math or read at their grade level. But Thurmond sees it differently.
It can save a life. We've worked with students who are in tough neighborhoods or schools that, have had many challenges, and we see students performing well academically, but being engaged in life and what their future is going to be. We think that personal finance is an important ingredient to success for all of our students.
I don't like the way he said ingredient, but I do like what he's saying here. I think having a mandatory class, so a 6-month semester, on personal finance, on understanding consequences, on understanding how banks work, and how you can completely destroy your future with some bad decisions in your early 20s, and how to fix that, how to get out of that. I think it's incredibly valuable.
And it's unclear where all legislative Republicans stand on this proposal, but GOP Senator and former Senate Minority Leader Scott Wilkes says he supports it, arguing it will give students the tools they need to succeed. Reporting outside the California Department...
Hold on a second. Eitan Wallace, did you just rhyme?
Arguing it will give students the tools they need to succeed.
You know what? Eitan Wallace, KTLA, Fox 40 reporter. If you ever wanted to run for mayor, you could do it.
Reporting outside the California Department of Education in Sacramento, Eitan Wallace, KTLA 5 News.
Well, I don't think it's going to be the end-all fix-all, because if we're still giving credit cards to people that you don't even want renting cars, you're going to have people that do not understand the consequences of the decisions that they're making. But at least we can arm them with the information of, you got to be very careful with this stuff, especially in your 20s, because not everybody has parents that will bail them out. Not everybody is going to be able to navigate the system properly, but the least we can do is give people the information that they need. But this is going to the voters, so you're going to get to decide on this later this year. So I'd like to know. Let's do an internal KABC poll right now at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Simple question. I'll give you what's going to be on the ballot. Should personal finance be a required course for graduation in California schools? Should we make kids learn how credit cards work and all that investing crap that I still don't know how works? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Should personal finance courses be required for graduation in California schools? 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're taking your phone calls, 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. The state superintendent, Tony Thurmond, is putting something for you to vote on in November. It's going to be on the ballot. If passed, it would require all California students to take and pass a personal finance course before they can graduate high school. Do you think this is a good idea? Would you support this? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Ken in Hollywood. Ken, hello.
Hi, Randy. How are you? Honored to be on with you. I've been listening since you came onto the show, and it's just great. It makes my afternoon.
I'm so glad to have you.
I just had to comment on this. I'm an accountant. I'm sitting here doing accounting right now, and I think it's a great idea. I think it's something that's long overdue. I'm one of those who said I wish they had it at school, but I think it's got some real problems. Number one, I think unless somehow you get the unions behind it, of course, the teachers' unions run the state, and if they don't think it should happen, it's not going to happen. I have a feeling they'd be happy to have it happen, but it's going to take a lot of money. You're going to have to take care of them first. And then, like everything else in LA Unified and all the other school districts, I'm just afraid that DEI will ruin it. And instead of being about learning the facts of the world, it'll just be one more instance of how everything that the world is doing now is wrong, and it needs to change.
You know what I would do if I was going to amend this bill? Sure, throw in a rider, give a giveaway to the teachers' union so they'll support it. But I also think anybody that gets elected to the legislature, they should have to take a personal finance course so they understand how spending works.
That would spoil the whole game. And I think they know how spending works, and that's why they do so well.
Thanks so much for the call, Ken. Appreciate it. Let's go to Mike in Irvine. Mike, hello.
Hey, I love your show.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, I tell you what, I got a couple of quick stories for you. I turned 16 in 1966, and before I could drive, Mobil sent me a credit card. And when I turned 16, I didn't pay for any gas. You know, gas was 20 cents, and I still ran the bill up to $150. And I couldn't pay it. And I couldn't pay it. My parents go, "What's with this bill?" I go, "I don't know." So they paid it, and they took the credit card away. Okay, then another quick story. Later in life, I still don't use a credit card. I'm the only one of my friends that don't use it. And they'll pay, and we go out to dinner, and they'll pay. They threw out 6 credit cards. And I said, okay, all right. And then I throw out a $100 bill, and then we settle it. But a quick story. My girlfriend in Laguna, I got two American Express cards in the mail, and I said, okay, here, I have one in your name. I go, don't use it unless for emergencies. At the end of the month, she had it maxed out.
So she had that many emergencies?
She just went out every night.
It takes a lot to max out an Amex. Oh, my.
She thought it was free. And I go, give me the credit card. It's just like my parents, I tore it up.
That's great, Mike. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Oh, I have heard stories like that before. Do you think personal finance should be a required course for California students to graduate? It's going to be on the bill this November. I'd love to hear from you. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. And as a side note, if you were like me and blew up a credit card in your 20s, I'd love to hear those stories. 800-222-KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're taking your phone calls, 800-222-KABC. The state superintendent, Tony Thurmond, is getting something on the ballot this November that would require any student that wants to graduate high school to take and pass a personal finance course. Based on how idiotically I handled a credit card in my early 20s without one of those courses, I think it might be a step in the right direction. I want to know, do you support this idea? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Rebecca in Ontario. Rebecca, hello.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I love your show. I think it's so imperative that this go through. It's such a basic life skill, and their argument saying, well, the kids, it's taking away from what they need to learn, and they're not proficient or even anywhere near where they need to be with math skills and language skills. I'm like, that's a different issue. But this is important, and they can learn math by using real life applications. And either which way, they're going to be out in the real world. They need to know how to deal with it.
Well, and you look at the math that they do require you to take to graduate high school, like geometry and trigonometry. I'm not saying they're not important, but you're going to use those a lot less. You're going to need to figure out how a credit card works.
Yep. Yeah, the math of interest and how you owe a lot more really fast, that's going to hit them really hard.
Yes, it really will. Thanks so much for the call, Rebecca. Appreciate it. Let's go to Vera in Lawndale. Vera, hello.
Hi. I've been listening to this station so long as I'll be Doug McIntyre. Anyway, they've taken everything from these kids. If you don't have a computer or your phone or the cash register tell you how much change to give back, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to subtract. They don't know how to add. I've run into this often. Yes, my daddy said if you worked with your hands, you would always have a job. You can create a job. You can do a job. They took shop out of schools. All we're raising up is a bunch of dependents. That's all we're raising. They don't know how to do anything. Believe me.
Oh, I believe you. So we need to have this class and a whole bunch of more things that used to be important.
Oh, yeah, like mechanics, shop, refrigeration. I mean, who's going to do these jobs? After we're gone, who's going to do these jobs? They don't know how to do anything. They can't work with their hands. They don't know how to use their mind. and their hands to develop anything. You know, that's the public school system. I don't know about everything, but there's a whole lot of stuff that's going to be left on the table. And personal finance is at the top of the list. That's how they got over on those kids rolling in college and filling out credit applications to get a credit card, and they're all in debt now, and they're all angry and don't know what to do.
Well, that's the thing that really bothered me is we didn't learn this stuff in high school, but you spent about 6 months every day learning how to fill out those college loan applications, figuring out how to get all this financing without understanding how you were going to pay for it later.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They're teaching them all kind of stuff they don't even need to learn, you know, instead of teaching them how to keep this country on its wheels and straight up taking care of our business so their kids can have a life. You know, it's really sad where we've sunk to, and I'm very upset about it. And I've been watching it go on for decades. Okay, I've been watching them come in, taking jobs, but these kids nowadays, if they don't have a cell phone to punch up digits on there and get the answer, they don't know how to do it. That's critical thinking. They don't know how to critical think, and that's why we have all this suicide and all this mayhem and taking over malls, because the mind wants to be engaged. It wants to do something productive, and they don't know what to do. That's my take on it.
Wow.
Put it in school.
That's some great points. I'm glad we're here to have you. Thanks so much for the call, Vera. Appreciate it. Call us back soon. That one took a left turn. She's not wrong, though. Let's go to Edward in La Crescenta. Edward, hello.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I think in theory, it's a great idea, but I don't think it's going to work. First of all, who's going to teach those classes?
You saying
Hello?
that the current teaching staff that we have don't understand personal finance enough to teach that to the kids?
Yeah, I'm a teacher myself, and I see some of my fellow teachers, and they're not really good with their money, and I don't know if they can handle it.
Well, if we got Cecily Myart Cruz to teach the class, she would teach it this way: if you feel like you don't have enough money, yell and kick and scream until you have more.
You know, it sounds good in theory, but I don't see anybody who can teach it. If they're going to train teachers, it's going to cost too much money. And even if they do train teachers, I'm not sure how rigorous it would be, and they just might pass the class with a gray C.
Well, that's definitely going to be a problem if the teachers don't understand the subject that they want to teach. Thanks for the call, Edward. Appreciate it. You imagine Cecily teaching personal finance?
We demand higher pay. Get that money.
Yeah, baby. Let's go to Aaron in Ventura. Aaron, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
So I agree. I think children should be taught personal finance in school. I believe that the credit card, it's almost kind of like it's set up to keep you spending no matter what. In our household, my husband has a problem with credit cards. He has racked up massive amounts of debt, and then he's managed to pay them off. This time around, it's a little bit more difficult. What he will do is he'll take his income from his checks, put it towards retirement, and then live off the credit cards. And then when they are when they've been maxed out, then he has to sell his stock or take early withdrawals from the retirement, which, it doesn't work because now you're just back, where you came from. And it's a vicious cycle. And they should probably be taught how not to use credit cards. If you don't have money to buy something, then if you don't have cash, then you probably don't need it.
Yeah, wow, that is an interesting way to manage your finances. Was he up front with you when he had all this credit card debt?
This is the third time around, and now unfortunately we are doing the big D. We're going through divorce because of this. He at one time he wanted, he was doing the prepper thing and ordered a bunch of dehydrated food. Well, I have buckets. I have a 3-month supply of dehydrated food, and that one bucket cost $795, and I have 10 of them. He
Holy
charged
cow.
10 buckets, $8,000 worth of dehydrated food. Something that
this is one of the craziest things I've ever heard, Aaron. I'm so sorry. This is awful. What is going on with this guy?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I wish you the best in the future. Please call us back. Give us an update. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for the call. So let me get this straight. He puts all of his money into the retirement accounts, maxes out the credit card, then pulls the money out of the retirement accounts to pay off the credit card, and then has $700 dehydration machines. Whoa. Gotta love live radio. Never expected to hear that today. Aaron, thank you so much for the call. We'll take more of your phone calls, 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang. Let's go back to the phones. Daniel in Harupa Valley. Daniel, hello.
Hey, how are you, Randy?
Doing great.
So anyway, they should teach the kids finances. I've done it myself, taking a class, or not really a class, a program from Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University, and I paid off all my debts. And they have a program for the kids too, so they should actually teach the kids.
That's really great. Congratulations, Daniel. Let's go to Susan in Santa Clarita. Susan, hello.
Hey, guys. I was just going to say the same thing. I taught Dave Ramsey's Financial Solutions. It's called Financial Peace University. It's really cheap. They actually give it to schools to teach at schools. All back east, they're probably private schools, but I paid off my debt too, and I've taught it at my church 3 times, and it changes people's lives. It's called the Debt Snowball, and you know what? If somebody invents the wheel, why try to reinvent it? So I'm not here to, just promote Dave Ramsey, but the people who are listening, look up, if they're having problems, we could change the world by just teaching people to pay off debt, why debt is so detrimental to people's lives and livelihood. They don't realize it, and the banks.
Your phone cut out. Susan, thank you so much for the call. I totally agree. Now, I've been telling you for the last week, we're trying to get the KABC News Blitz up the charts to #1 in Apple Podcasts. Well, apparently, Rick Dees is doing a chart podcast top 40. Let's listen.
Rick Dees in the weekly top 40.
It's Rick Dees with the top podcast rankings of the week, number 25. BBC World Service shows us that hard talk can seem easy. For his wonderful podcast, he was going to go with the title J or Seculo, and he went with the latter, number 24. And coming in at number 23, growing up in the San Fernando Valley, he always wondered how on earth can I get on the radio? And he just worked so hard every day building websites and the type of creepy things you do when you have no social network. But the internet saved him. And he's now coming after you through the offensive and defensive line. Randy Wang is on a KABC News Blitz 23.
See, we made it to 23. See you tomorrow, everybody, on KABC.